1D for LNG in this series. Maybe LNG can, quote-unquote, upset despite being the higher seed over SUNING here today.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if they can defy expectations at very least. We're into the series tag, though. We're into our first pick and ban. It is going to be Camille and Jace, banned by LNG, trying to make sure that Bin cannot get a foothold in that top side. Whereas for SUNING, they start off targeting Tarzan. He's played 7 games of Xinjiao across the course of this split, and he has won 7 games on that Xinjiao. So a very understandable ban alongside a Renekton.
So a lot of these kind of top lane / mid lane picks banned away from LNG targeted pretty heavily towards Bin, a little bit towards Angel, but not a huge amount. On SUNING side, I want to see the volley ban here. It's what they went towards last time, and it gave them like that earlier, or at least easier early game. But Viego also up and available, which I don't know if you want to let slip through the draft.
Gwen available as well, and with these 3 top lane bans from LNG, Syndra getting taken off the board makes you think that maybe that's got higher prevalence in scrims now that it's been buffed. Lee Sin, the first pick here for LNG.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Lee Sin going to be really strong. We were talking about the flexibility that you can have. I mean, both solo laners towards Tarzan as well, but that Ziggs that we talked about, that LNG have banned away every game since they played against SUNING, is actually going to be going back into the hands of Guanfang here.
Look, I thought about deducting you points for getting the bans wrong, but honestly, I think they should have banned the Ziggs. I think you were right, and maybe LNG's ban strat was wrong. But the 3 top lane bans, I'm really intrigued on what we end up seeing in terms of that top lane matchup. Ziggs locked in, though, for, you'd assume, Guanfang. There's a remote possibility it goes to Angel, but unlikely, as a Graves is locked in. You'd assume for SOFF.
Oh. Yeah, this is completely out of left field. I thought we'd end up seeing him go back towards something like the Zac or something along the Olaf or something along these lines, but the Graves kind of coming across a little bit strange. Now, it does mean that you can actually start to pivot your draft a little bit here for LNG if you want, right? You can end up taking this mid lane pick for Icon, go towards the Lee Sin. Maybe you want to take something a little bit different for Tarzan in the jungle. Like the Graves being picked up early kind of says a lot as we get an early Vayne pick in towards the Ziggs as well. All right, look, draft notes be damned. We're going completely different. Yeah. Well, this is nuts. I love it, though.
The crazy thing is, we talked about patch 11.15 a tiny bit. There's not that many significant changes. Well, apparently, there's a patch we didn't know about where Vayne got a massive buff. Apparently, Graves is back. Apparently, Kennen is a blind pick instead of a counter pick up on that top side for Ally. It looked amazing for him in their regular split series.
I actually do agree with the Kennen. Kennen did get a really nice buff to his Q and was kind of bordering on that really strong portion. Good means that you can't blind pick the Gwen here for SUNING and then start banning away things like the Kennen, especially with the Jace being there. So we'll have to see what Bin decides to take up into that top lane. Hovering the Gnar for the moment, I actually wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, there it's locked in. It gives that nice top lane matchup where you can avoid some of the range damage, and you've got this big engage tool now you can set up for when SUNING are running this carry jungler as well. But certainly you're looking towards these kind of strong team fights, especially that mid to late game for SUNING, with this Gnar kind of leading the front line. So I think if I'm LNG, I'm going to start looking towards these mid lane picks that can set up a lot of that early pressure as well. So like things that we're going to be looking at, like potentially here actually for a set ban, honestly, against Angel in the mid lane, the Malzahar, the Rises, these kind of things that can actually like lock down some of these picks and make sure they're not able to have big impact in these fights.
We'll see where the ban's going to go with this one. Dagda, let's kind of look holistically at these comps so far, though, because I feel like there's a lot of all-in on the side of LNG right now. Whereas for SUNING, it's very much about playing at range.
Yeah, for SUNING, you definitely want to be trying to keep yourself on a little bit of a back foot here, like tossing in those bombs with the Ziggs, trying to make sure that you're all good. For LNG, it's kind of like a protect your buddy combo for LNG, right? Because you've got this Kennen who can play frontline in this big engage tool, but if you have Kennen and Vayne standing beside each other, it becomes really difficult to lock down this Vayne, and she's got a lot of protection when you've got this big old ring of CC around her. So I think for LNG, it's going to be very much like Light and Ally playing hand in hand in these team fights. So as you can see, like on LNG side, instead of going towards mid lane bans, they are actually looking towards this bot lane. They want to make sure they can get rid of things that like will definitely lock up Vayne. So something like the Nautilus, I think, will probably be the next ban, because you can deal with like things like the Leona relatively easily on the Vayne.
It's a Malzahar being banned. away, which to me screams that Icon wants to lock in his signature LeBlanc in that mid lane. I do just want to very quickly mention, Graves has been a mid laner in solo queue on this patch. That is an option as well, as Trundle is locked in. I'm going to assume that is for Ons.
Yeah, Trundle and Ziggs have become like a really strong bot lane duo because you do get the slows, it stops people from being able to engage, and obviously just Trundle being able to shred people with the subjugate is really nice. So definitely something that we started to see more and more, where you can actually have a little bit of that peel come through with the troll pull. But for LNG side, there's the LeBlanc that you were hoping for. Now, still the Lissandra open, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that taken for Suning. But on LNG side, right, like you have a really strong composition that's got a lot of like go buttons, a lot of pick potential coming through with this LeBlanc. And I think you just have to round it out with an engaged support here to set up for this Vayne so that can keep her safe. And especially when you don't have a huge amount of backline threats apart from the Ziggs. Right now, you can play forward with your support rather than needing something like the Janna or like the Peel supports that LNG will.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give credits to that Janna hover as well. For anyone that doesn't know, Iwandi used to be a big Janna one trick as a solo queue player. That was the way that he got recognized and became a pro. So I think also just giving a shout out to himself in the past. Over to Suning though for their mid lane pick. Lissandra, another answer that we've seen against the LeBlanc. It's something Angels played in the past and it will be locked in.
And I like this because it also gives another avenue of engage for Suning. When you're reliant on an R who's a little bit, you know, I'll say hit or miss, available, having this Lissandra that can definitively set up for your engages. As you've poked out LNG with the likes of the Ziggs, gives a little bit more credence, a little bit more flexibility for Suning on how they want to approach these fights. Whereas when you look across the set for LNG, a lot of kind of protect the Vayne coming through with the Kennen, a lot of go forward. And the idea for LNG is as long as we are going forward and aggressing on towards Suning, Vayne will be safe.
Okay, so LNG pushing forwards, being aggressive in these fights, looking for big slicing maelstroms. For the side of Suning then, are we still on the same page that we were after the first three picks, or it's playing further back, playing defensive, playing for poke, and having as long fights as you can find?
Yeah, I still think that's going to be the case. It just means that you've got a little bit more flexibility with that, right? Like, Lissandra's toolkit can still be offensive and defensive, slowing you down with the Ice Claw, Ring of Frost to keep you in place. So I think you're still going to see a very similar story here. And they just have a little bit more opportunity for, well, one of the big things that we were harking on about is pick potential, right? Lissandra allows you to set up really well when you're starting to move towards these objectives. A 1-2 punch between Lissandra and Ziggs using full combos. Sorry for you, lad. There's not a hope you're surviving that.
Yeah, Lissandra, very good at picks. Guess what we talked about for Suning? How they play the game is finding these picks, finding stragglers out around the map and punishing them heavily. We're heading into game number 1, Dagda. We're heading into playoffs. It is finally time for LPL's Summer 2021 playoffs to begin. It's LNG versus Suning, 8th versus 9th seed. And I want to remind everyone at home that the only time LNG as an organization has ever beaten Suning was back in 2019 summer, the first split of the organization, and it was when SOFM was in amongst their ranks. Now, Tarzan, filling SOFM's shoes, has to try and outdo SOFM's legacy.
And again, like, this is the exact same position that we saw these teams in spring. Round 1, it was LNG versus Suning, and Suning were able to take the 0-3. Suning hoping to have a repeat performance, but for LNG, it is all about revenge. It is all about bringing it back and seeing that they have grown since the last big playoff bout that these two had.
Well, we see Vision being cleared up on the top side by On, who actually moved all the way over to the top lane to clear away that ward. But SOFM was still spotted on a ward on the bottom side of the map. So full information for LNG as we start this one off. You can see jungle pathing-wise, got Tarzan starting on the top side. Oh, we actually saw a little distortion in from Icon, but he got away with it.
Yeah, and I think that's why we actually are seeing a little bit more of a help with SOFM towards his jungle clear, right? Oh, hang on. Bit of a trade here for On.
On's in big trouble, actually, getting really, really low. And that's bad news because the reason you pick Trundle half the time is that insanely strong level 1.
Yeah, it's great when you can try and go aggressive and trade back, but unfortunately just don't quite have that against the Rel, who got that really nice engage. So now you're in a bit of a problem here as we're trading heavily in this top side, but I want to take him low back towards these junglers. You can see SOFM clearing towards this top side. He'll have a bit of a faster clear because it's Graves versus Lee Sin, but also he got help with his clear. Tarzan didn't. So Tarzan's going to be much slower to interact with the lanes. So the fact that you've got this big win for Light and I1 in the bottom lane is massive, because it does mean that you've got this winning lane that Tarzan can now get this scuttle crab for himself.
Now, hang on. Tarzan starts off his chickens, but instead going to move straight on towards potentially this bottom lane. Dagda, are we going to see an early dive coming through here from LNG? Tarzan in the tri-brush right now. I1D on the Rel, only level 2 right now, getting DPS down. He can't tank very much. Swampfog flashes over the tower. I1D's going to go down for first blood. It's a 1-for-1 as Light has to flash away. And LNG, they try and make the dive happen, but it went a little bit pear-shaped.
Yeah, and usually you're like, hey, well, you know, at least he'll lose the minions, he'll lose a little bit more. Huanfeng had gotten most of the minion wave. He just TPs back to lane as well, so you don't actually lose a huge amount as SUNING. Whereas what we just talked about for SOFM is he wants to be clearing faster. He wants to be getting pressure on the map. So he hasn't invested this time in trading equal on the bottom side. He can reset, have more impact on the map, and especially as he gets this quicker buy, start to threaten the respawn of these camps for Tarzan in the top side of the map.
You can see the dragon percentages on your screen. SUNING better at controlling that objective, especially in the early stages of the game. It's going to be a minor gold lead now for SUNING right off the bat, and it has to be said, Ziggs, it's one of these picks that usually you kind of have to wait a little bit until you got some items before you're really having that effectiveness. But this early play, that early first blood going the way of SUNING, certainly will not help out LNG. Let's take a closer look. I1D just gets so chunked before the play even began.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the stun, but, like, there's no escaping there as the Rel. Like, you've committed to this. Even if you blow the flash, you're going to go down. So they go 1-for-1, but you don't really lose a huge amount there as Huanfeng in the bottom lane. So kind of a little bit of an unfortunate play for LNG. I actually thought Icon was going to TP down, but right as they went for that play on the bottom side, Icon went for a heavy trade in mid, which meant that he wouldn't have been able to get down there.
Rough situation for LNG at the start of this one. Now, obviously, they're not too far behind. Certainly not going to run out of steam just yet, but definitely felt a little bit forced. And to be honest, it's a bit uncharacteristic from what we see from LNG. They are not the fast, early, aggressive team. But Angel will get away with his life here. That was a little close, but he's all right. Gets out on the glacial path.
Yeah, but you can see the point that you're trying to make on that jungle proximity at the bottom of your screen, right? They're not a team that tends to interact a huge amount. Like, jungle proximity, pretty much abysmal across the board, apart from I1D, who tends to link up with Tarzan a little bit more. But to see these early plays is a bit uncharacteristic, but at least they're going for it, right? One of the big problems that I had with this was that neither team, as you can see again, jungle proximities for SUNING, would go for these early plays. Whereas that series that we saw between these two in the regular season was defined by these early jungle pressure. More so towards the top side, but at least both teams are thinking, hey, we do want to get ourselves ahead. We want to make these proactive plays, because that's what makes or breaks this series.
Icons just use distortion, and SOFM moves into that lane. But he manages to escape from that one. I think our feed was a second behind on that play there. SOFM now gonna help Angel just push this wave in the mid lane. And, you know, Graves plus Lissandra, you're gonna one-shot that wave.
Yeah, gonna completely be fine. And again, I want to see what happens here for Angel. Now, we'll need to reset pretty low on mana, but you can see again, like, we're getting the threats of potential invades here. Angel moving across, always thinking, hey, can we get that vision control down? Can we start to spot these plays out? SOFM, having picked up a small CS lead for himself, again, wants to try and get involved in Tarzan's side of the map, make things uncomfortable for the Lee Sin.
Oh, Tarzan knows exactly what's happening, but so does SOFM. Good little ward there, keeps himself safe. That was a close one. And it kind of reminded me of a situation that happened a couple of times in the matchup in the regular split. But I'll hold that thought, because we've got our junglers moving to this bottom side. Tarzan, I think he knows that SOFM is here. He should have a good inkling that SOFM's in the brush. A couple of shotgun blasts as we go in the bottom side on the target here. Ignite already ticking away. Swampfong getting some good damage out with these bombs. I1D has to flash the satchel charge. That was close to beautiful from Swampfong.
Yeah, a good combo with On as well. It gets that pillar in place if Huanfeng's able to set that up. But it does mean that Huanfeng is tore through his mana. So not going to be able to keep as much pressure in this lane. So despite the fact we don't get much in the way of kills, it actually is quite beneficial for Light Knight 1D despite the flash going down.
And now luckily for Huanfeng, he's got those biscuits. So he'll have a little bit of mana still. He'll be able to at least survive this laning phase. He's looking to hold on long enough he can get that lost chapter. That's when things get a little bit easier at that boss side for Ziggs. Look into the jungle though, SOFM double camping here with the Gromp and the blue buff. He's going to give that blue over to Angel.
I want to go back though, because you're saying, look, you know, for Ziggs, definitely this game gets easier the later this goes. Same goes for things like the Graves versus the Lee Sin matchup. Graves becomes a monster the later on that this game goes in comparison to the Lee Sin. The big issue that you're going to see for these guys is more so, how do they try and deal with Light? If you can get this lockup coming through from Angel, lock down this Vayne, stop the Vayne going nuts in these fights, I think you're going to do perfectly fine here as SUNING. But if it's Ale setting up these engages, Light is able to free hit on the backline in these later fights, it's actually going to be pretty tough for SUNING to try and sustain that, because Vayne, as you know, like, when she gets 3 items under her belt, she just rips apart health bars.
Yeah, Vayne is terrifying in the current state of the game. But here we go. SUNING just going to start this Herald off. Both teams can fight for this one, but Light is currently recalling at the bottom side. Huanfeng is already here. You'd expect SUNING should be able to take this without much of a contention, but LNG still posturing here. Ale is level 8. We've seen what his cannon can do. Smite away, though. SUNING grab themselves a Herald. They're looking for Ale as well. Angel follows up. Blast Cone gets Ale out to safety. It will be SUNING grabbing themselves a Herald. Pretty much scot-free.
Yeah, and LNG fully rotated up as well, right? So they're not actually trying to trade this for plates anywhere else. And unfortunately, they're just a bit late to the party, even under threat from Bin as well, who was almost had that full Gnar bar, could have gone for that big engage. Is now the pick.
He's okay. He's flashed out over the wall, and you saw Huanfeng actually TPing to that bottom side. I think realizing that there was no way he'd be able to walk through the river, he's going to try and crash that wave. Light on his way over should be able to soak up the vast majority of this wave at very least. But Drake not started. I wasn't sure if LNG were going to try and go for that one, but deciding against it because of that massive wave crashing.
Yeah, also, it's kind of difficult on both sides to really start this up, right? You don't want to be sitting in the pit when a Ziggs bomb starts coming in, or you end up with, like, Icon having all these distortions that can pop over the wall and pick off some of those key members of SUNING. So certainly I think we're going to see an ease off of Dragons, and again, more of a focus, like we saw in their last series, towards that Rift Herald on the top side. And with that being in the hands of SOFM, I'd love to see him play around this bottom side. Huanfeng, like, usually comes out with a lane deficit, but in this matchup, you can see he's been totally fine. He's starting to farm up, and getting that extra gold and the potential for a satchel charge on the turret sets up so well with this Rift Herald.
And not to mention the fact that you got a Ziggs. Like, as you say, the satchel charge. Like, it doesn't even matter about the rest of the composition. It doesn't matter about the state of the game. That is just such a good combo that I feel like any situation, it's worth heralding your Ziggs. And SOFM is moving down towards this bottom side. On top of that, they can find themselves Prio and maybe go for a Drake. This feels like the perfect play for SUNING right now. And LNG, a team notorious for not really having the strongest of early game performances. And right now, it's SUNING starting to pick up the pace, but they've decided against the play for now. Tarzan was up on the top side. Felt like it could have worked out, but SUNING playing it safe.
No real vision on Tarzan. They didn't spot him out in his jungle. A lot of that vision control for SUNING right now is in river base, but Icon trying to see if he can set up for a potential gank from Tarzan, not quite able to get it. But again, we're seeing, like, okay, SUNING are actively trying to set up these plays. We got that Umbra Glaive that you were talking about on SOFM as well, so expect him to be trying to sneak his way into a bunch of different spots.
You know, this is one of those things as a commentator where you've done prep on something and you mention it right at the start just in case you see it, but you never really quite expect it to happen exactly. Immediate Umbral Glaive comes out from SOFM. This guy wants vision control, Dagda.
But, I mean, you can see that, right? I mean, On has been doing a phenomenal job of working alongside him. Like, we got all that vision cleared out on the bottom side for SUNING. They have always had Angel placing these wards of Raptors to try and spot out Tarzan as well. It's just making it really hard for Tarzan to interact with the lanes on this Lee Sin. Like, yes, he has one kill off that bottom lane dive, but since then, he's been tracked continuously, and it means that this Lee Sin isn't having the impact that we want from him, especially now that he's hit that level 6 and has that Dragon's Rage available.
Now the whole squad grouping up in the mid lane here on... I can't remember the last time he's in that bottom lane. He's constantly just in river, dealing with vision, or moving into this mid lane to help push. Now Drake on the cards here for SUNING, or at very least vision control of Drake. Who needs objectives when you can have vision control, Doctor? Vision control is the name of the game for SUNING.
But remember what we said, right? SUNING are using this vision control to try and make picks. Now, they're trying to see if they can make this play on the bottom side happen to get that gold anyway, but Tarzan is in the area.
That wave is going to be frustrating, and actually this Herald might go down. The smite is there, and a bit of an overzealous Herald placement there, dropping it in the river. Gives too much time to answer the play. Very nicely done by LNG to deny that gold influx. Was a couple of plates in the mid lane for Angel, but ultimately LNG, we call that a win.
Especially for Light, right? Light wants time to get into a position where he's not constantly having these waves tossed at him all the time. If that tower goes down, you start to unlock one Fong, he goes topside, Light still can't clear the wave, rinse and repeat with the second Rift Herald. It's a very easy way for SUNING to try and snowball this game, but you're not able to do it because they are able to stop that play on the bottom side for LNG.
Angel toying with the idea of going in here. I don't know if this is a play that you can dive, but SUNING have a different opinion to me on that one as they go under the tower and they annihilate Ale. Been happy to tank this one up. I thought that was going to be dicey against the cannon. They make it look easy, Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, the flash in to just keep that CC chain there. You don't get to move as Ale, and they pick him off. And now that's turret plate's gone on that top side. That's a bit more go for Bin. And if you end up in a situation where Bin is able to play off through these side lanes, you'll be in a good spot for SUNING. Dragon started up SOFM, though, as he realizes that Tarzan is going to be on the top side.
Tarzan was topside. Dragon taken for SUNING. 5 plates across the map, and importantly, a gold lead starting to build up in SUNING's favor. Now, in terms of average gold lead at 15 minutes, SUNING certainly not the forerunner in the whole league, but comparatively to LNG, certainly a favorite in this game. LNG, one of the teams that's lowest down when it comes to the gold difference statistics.
Yeah, and I think this is going to continue for a little bit just because of the way that the game has started to run forward, right? SUNING have an incredibly strong top half of the map where you've got SOFM who's far ahead, you've got Angel who's in a really good spot as well, Bin too, they can start to look towards these early skirmishes around Rift Herald, and you've always got the option for Huan Feng to join in late, right? So he can take this bot lane turret, knows that Rift Herald's on the top side, but he can just TP into that play as well. So this is why SUNING starting to get aggressive and look for those picks around Rift Herald before they start up the eject.
And you can see on your screen there the power of this 6, right? The speed at which he will take these towers down if LNG don't answer him. They've moved up to try and answer the Herald though, but look where Light is on the map. He's in this bottom lane. He could all in Huan Feng if he finds a window, but there's no way Huan Feng should ever be that close. Huan Feng has TP, and it means that LNG have to just back away from this.
And that's the sad part here, right? This is the exact same issue that LNG had the last time with the Ziggs. They couldn't deal with it in lane, and then they end up in a situation where they're just outplayed on the map thanks to the teleport on the Ziggs, the tower take from the Ziggs, and we're going to start seeing it now where you now move this Ziggs in towards the mid lane alongside the Graves, potentially to take that mid lane turret, or you can then very quickly threaten the top side as SOFM as well if you want to, because Bin's already taken part of that top lane turret as well.
Oh. SOFM holding the cannon there for his boy Huan Feng.
What a bro.
Now Huan Feng misses the... Huan Feng missed the CS though. It wasn't worth it. SOFM, you should have just took the wave, mate. You could see that he wanted to. You could feel it in the way he was standing, but yeah, doesn't happen.
If you actually look just below where the dragon timer is, it actually says SOFM will remember this. He's learned his lesson.
SOFM always remembers. He's got an affair with his blue buff though. In fact, it's not up right now. Does LNG
That's not the button I think he wants to use. That's a Rift Herald very far away from the turret. I think that might be supposed to be a sweeper, but look, you've got several people now from SUNING all collapsing on this. They will get the charge, and a quick satchel will take this turret.
Okay, I saw the Herald drop further away, and I had a horrible moment of thinking it was going to happen to them twice in one game. I thought maybe there's a world where that happens, but LNG not able to clear that one. There was a wave there to tank the tower, so Herald goes in. 2 towers down now in favor of SUNING. They've taken 2 Heralds, 2 towers. They've taken a Drake for themselves. All they've conceded in this game is a singular kill so far. And they're 3,000 gold up, almost, about 2.5 in their favor right now. So we'll see if they can continue to snowball this one. The only outer tower remaining on the map right now is that top lane tier 1. And I've got a feeling that SUNING are going to set their eyes up to that top lane.
Yeah, I mean, after these resets coming through, it's going to be get this push in towards mid to secure topside vision, and then it becomes impossible for LA to try and hold on to this. No matter how many members you have, there's just, when full vision control goes in SUNING's hands, you've got to back away or you're just going to find yourself destroyed. And now with 1.5 minutes until the next dragon as well, you've always got this timing window that you can start to play with the SUNING, because it's only the first dragon for LNG, so look for plays top, trade off the dragon.
We'll see. We'll see if LNG are going to be able to trade anything here. I will say, coming into this series, like, we have to give a realistic expectation of what LNG have shown us in the regular split. Earlier on in the split, they did a decent job of controlling the game, controlling the map, and finding wins through snowballs and through interesting combos like the Yasuo. Angel could be in trouble here, but he's just going to lock Icon up, cancels the all-in. As SOFM moves in as well. A fight for the blue buff is on here. The ward comes in. I1D's there. Tarzan smites it away. Now onto On. Forces the flash here. And I'm not sure, but I think he was spamming left for a second there.
Yeah, he looked pretty happy with himself to be able to pick that one up. It's about the mental warfare as much as it is about the Rift warfare. But the big thing that we're seeing here is SUNING full committing towards his bottom side, so we won't get that trade we were potentially talking about on the top side. For that, SOFM gets a steal back here, has to flash over the wall. That was not worth it, SOFM. That was a grub for your flash and your ult right as dragon spawns.
Like, if I know anything about SOFM Dagda, that is that it was totally worth it to get that grump. It's not just about him getting the grump, it's about Tarzan not getting the grump at the end of the day. This will mean a Drake, though, for LNG. As you rightly say, Dagda, they'll be able to sweep that one up very handily. And, I mean, SOFM even used his ult to get that grump, so no long shot steals or anything. It is traded for a tower on the top side in favor of SUNING, though, so that is 3 towers to 0 right now. It's going to be a Mountain Soul this game, Dagda. But that Mountain Soul is a long way away. At earliest, it'll be 35 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be a hefty one. And, I mean, look, I think we're in this for the long haul as well, Munch. When you see a Vayne, you see a Ziggs, you're not exactly going, we're done by 15, boys. We'll pack this one up. It's going to be, we're waiting for these items to come through. And look, it's slowly but surely getting there, right? But looks like SUNING have found Ali.
Uh-oh. Ale is on the wrong portion of the map right now, but he's just going to TP on home. Gets himself out to safety. SOFM will have to recall. Now LNG can make a play elsewhere on the map. Mega Inferno Bomb used by Wampong just to clear the wave, deny everything. This is the power of the Ziggs. Now Angel is perhaps the one caught in the bad position, but no vision from LNG. Means he's fine. Plus he's on Lissandra. You're always kind of safe, and Bin threatening in the bottom side of the map. Feels like there's so much going on the map at the same time, but LNG just can't quite find an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious to watch, right? It's like, we get a pick. No, I get a pick. No, we're getting the pick. And it's very back and forth. And maybe they do, but Angel, again, managed to sidestep that LeBlanc chain, so they're not able to find that one secure. But again, like, as you said, this becomes really difficult for LNG to try and trade effectively around the map, because Ziggs can just show up with a Mega Inferno Bomb, clear the wave. It's one of the most frustrating things about playing against Ziggs, alongside his ability to take turrets so quickly.
And this is one of the downsides of this blind pick Lissandra as well, right? When you're, the blind pick LeBlanc going into something like a Lissandra, it just feels like you don't get to do anything. This split second you distortion in, Lissandra drops a cheeky little W, aftershock comes in, it's like, what burst? What burst? Your ultimate doesn't do anything here anymore. Angel's pretty much invincible in those kind of scenarios. Now with an Everfrost as well, the CC chain that can happen to Icon if he tries to go too deep, with SOFM nearby, it's going to be a kill onto Icon, not onto anyone else. So it does feel like it becomes more and more difficult for Icon the longer this game goes on. And it's kind of a similar story with Tarzan on the Lee Sin, right? Doesn't feel like scaling is on the side of LNG.
And that's why I need to see them start to look, at least for the mid-jungle, to be playing these side lanes, and then have the mobility for Icon come into play, right? To store it over a wall, try and threaten the mid lane dive as you start to push in on towards Wanfong. Like, open up the map, because at least Angel, yes, he can survive the all-in from Icon, but he still plays on the back foot. He still waits for the wave to push in, so you get that tempo that little bit of time to start making plays elsewhere on the map. But I think when we look towards the team fights, the scaling is still kind of on both sides, right? Because we still have Vayne here. You still have the opportunity with this Immortal Shield Bow with end build to survive quite a bit of the AP damage, which is a large portion of SUNING's damage profile. So I want to see if you're able to keep Light safe here as LNG, or if SUNING are just going to be able to work with a 1-2 combo between Angel, Wanfeng, and Hell, throw SFM into the mix.
At some point, there's got to be either a Mikhail's for on, a QSS for light, it's something, right? Against the Lissandra. Yeah. It's got to happen. That's the tax that needs to be paid. There may not be a SCADA in this game, but the tax still exists.
To be fair, there isn't a lot of other CC outside of that, right? Like, yes, you've got the bin slam down, so I think the cleanse might actually just be enough. Now, obviously, a little bit of a longer cooldown, so for every fight, you probably will need it, but certainly I think the cleanse will do for the moment.
The thing is, though, if Lissandra is ever in the position to get one of the CCs, there's an Everfrost, there's the W, there's the ult. Like, I'm not sure one cleanse is going to quite do it. SFM has to ult over the wall to keep himself safe. The Condemned flashed away from on now with the re-engage. Bomb onto Light, but it will just be the disengage from the side of SUNING. Bin still in the bottom side of the map. Angel wasn't nearby. They don't force the fight.
It was a nice attempt from LNG, right? We talked about them like playing side lanes and then overloading the mid lane. Nearly able to make the play work, but flashes come in from SUNING. Still been keeping this pressure on the side lane, so now Ally has to go deal with that. But with the dragon up in 40 seconds, LNG have to back away and SUNING get full control, and they can start to look for picks as LNG look to re-enter their jungle.
And look at this in the bottom side of the map right now. We've been talking about it all game. SUNING vision control. They have control of the entire red quadrant of LNG's jungle right before Drake is coming up onto the map. It's so difficult for LNG to be able to face check at all into this one. SUNING, they would love to find a pick before the Drake spawns onto the map, but they can also just burst through this one. Taiwandi trying to move forward. He's scanning into the brush, but the ward is gone in half a split second there. On there, Wanfeng satchel charging himself. He thought LNG were going to try and force the play. Bin waiting over the wall, looks for a pick onto Icon. The flash, stun. See ya later, Icon. He's out of there.
Bin makes it look easy. Just wipes Icon off the map, and now SUNING once again can get control. And the thing is, you can't really threaten anywhere else as LNG because Wanfeng clears the wave. He's got that Mega Inferno bomb if you try to aggress up towards the top side. And just a nice pick from SUNING secures themselves that second drag.
Certainly does, and they've spotted LNG in this brush as well. So the attempted sort of post-play pick from LNG that was sort of happening in this brush doesn't end up happening at all. And it feels like SUNING, time and time again so far this game, are finding small advantages in everything that happens. And it's not the flashiest play we've ever seen. It's not the most exciting, like, team fight-based play we ever see in the LPL. But when you look at each and every one of these interactions so far this game, every single one has just gone ever so slightly in favor of SUNING, and it's led to a 4K gold lead.
It's effective and efficient, but it ain't flashy. And look, well, it's technically flashy, right? He does flash onto his face here, so maybe, but Icon does fall fairly quickly. And that's what we're talking about. Like, when you can set up these quick picks at objectives for SUNING, it's where they're strongest, and it does work out for them so often. And unfortunately for LNG, because they tried to go for that earlier pick in mid, don't have the vision control to try and contest, and they end up falling. Now, for LNG, they still have options here. It just means that they have to find quick engages. Like, a lot of this game feels to me like it lies on Iwandi's shoulders when it comes towards these fights. He needs to be looking for creative flanks alongside Ale to get these big engages and allow Light to close the gap. Too many times when we're looking towards these objectives, especially with the Ziggs, SUNING will just play it at that long range we're talking about. Poke away with the bombs, not giving LNG an opportunity to actually find a favorable fight.
Yeah, no windows so far. SFM doesn't even get the ward. He has the overall glaive. He just needed one auto attack. Instead goes for an ult over towards the blue buff. And On's going to be the one to take the ward. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, Dyke. That was super weird, but doesn't matter in the end. That control ward from Bin is going to get some serious value this game. Nobody's noticed it just yet.
No.
Now, in a couple of minutes' time, I think we come back to this because after 5 minutes, control wards get the honorable award of longevity or something like that. They start glittering gold anyway. That's when you got maximum value out of a control ward. I'm going to be keeping my eye on that one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sitting there for a little bit of time, especially because LNG are playing so heavily around this top side of the map now. I do want to say, SFM, like, for all his annoyances that he's been doing this game with stealing grumps and flashes away and, you know, stopping recalls with his ultimate, it hasn't really bought too much, right? It's just a bit of an irritation. LNG still have control up over this top side, and Icon might have found Angel.
And that is the nature of this 1v1. Icon takes a couple of hits from the Baron as well, and Angel happy to use that ultimate because look how much CDR he's already got in his build here with the Zhonya's finished off already. He's going to have a very low cooldown on that Glacial Tomb. So very nice to see him being proactive against Icon. As soon as Icon comes in, threatening the potential fight, right? Threatening the answer to the
Yeah, and I'm glad that SUNING aren't given an inch when it comes towards this Baron as well, because LNG can take this so incredibly quickly. And at the moment, because Icon doesn't have his teleport available, you're not really able to play outside lanes as heavily as you'd like for LNG, so you're free as SUNING to push in a wave with Ziggs, then start to drift in towards the Baron and get all this vision control back in your favor. And we're seeing it time and time again, and it's becoming more and more difficult for LNG to deal with because they just don't really have wave clear. Like, if you're up against this Ziggs and this potential siege, like, who actually clears the wave?
The crazy thing is, in theory, they have wave clear, right? LeBlanc has some wave clear, and so does Kennen. But you have to literally throw yourself at the wave to use that wave clear. Not an ideal situation when the enemy is bearing down on your towers. Speaking of which, Ally could be in trouble here. SOFM moving over. Doesn't look like they're going to force a dive. For now, at very least, resets are going to come through because Drake is going to be up in a minute here, Dagda. And once again, SUNING are the ones completely in control.
Yeah, and it comes back to that vision point that you've been making over and over again, Munch. Like, the vision for these objectives has been fully in favor of SUNING. It's all them controlling anywhere that LNG can try and enter this Dragon area. And again, they're having Angel consistently push outside waves. He's got TP flanks. He can always threaten on towards Light, and it makes it really difficult for LNG to try and aggress in.
On could be in trouble here, but he has consistently been here on this Trundle, just happily tanking up blows. So many times we've seen On, like, what looks like caught outright for a split second, and then you look at the bigger picture and you realize he's definitely not. He's on Trundle. He's completely fine. And having to use the ultimate, though, just to keep safe, to steal away some tanky stats. Icon!
Oh, Icon!
Oh, no, he messed up his disruption. His distortion, sorry, has to flash. Bin now in trouble in the bottom side. Light going for the tower dive here, and the true damage shreds the Gnar. That's an opportunity here for LNG to get onto this Drake. It's just being burnt down by SUNING, though. Do they have the damage? The smite comes through from SOFM. Now SUNING trying to retreat. Only 4 members here. The kick from Tarzan, it's denied, and it kicks SOFM to safety. They get away from the slicing Maelstrom, but at least Light gets an extra one. On goes down on the back of the play.
There's 2 dead, though, for SUNING, and LNG, they could potentially look over towards the Baron, but they're so low. You still have a lot of engage here that can come through with Wanfeng. Megan for the bomb nearly up, but he might go down.
Icon, he's burning. Oh, it's a 1-for-1. Jungler for mid. You know what, LNG, they will take that because Baron is on the cards. We talked about the Vayne 3-item spike. He's hit it. He is shredding this Baron. Angel trying to get in the pit. Wanfeng has huge poke damage into the Baron pit here. 2,000 on the Baron. It's going to be taken. Wanfeng gets one, though. Angel locking up onto Alley. Tarzan low here. Tarzan's low. Bin's chasing for a little bit more. SUNING want to pick off the stragglers. They are looking for bonus gold here. It doesn't look like they're going to commit to the play in the end. And LNG, they get a Baron. It was dicey, but they get the Baron, Dagda.
Yeah, Wanfeng will get this mid lane turret in response, but that's exactly what they needed to succeed here. LNG managing to just about find this fight with that nice engage on towards Bin in the bottom lane, and now they can start to set up their own sieges, play it through this 1-3-1, and we'll see it on your screens right now, right? Light shredding through this, just had finished the Quincy's Rage Base blade, pops the cleanse underneath the turret, and he's fine. And now SUNING are just running for the hills, and everyone on LNG is just hitting the go button. Whatever they can do, but here's the siege actually.
They're going to try and make a play. TP into the mid lane from SUNING. They will answer the attempt, and Ally could be in trouble. Q comes out. I swear to God, SOFM is just using his ult on cooldown this game. Every single time it's available, just smashes the R key. I want to quickly point out the fact that SUNING, while they lost the... Oh, hang on. We don't have time to talk about anything. Tarzan slips out. While they lost the Baron, they did get that Infernal Drake. That's going to be key. Oh, the Mountain Drake. It's going to be key in 3 minutes' time as the Soul will be spawning and SUNING will be in prime position to potentially get themselves a Soul. The question is, what can LNG get with the Baron? So far, not even a tier 1.
Yeah, the big factor for all these is going to be a case of how many members can LNG kill of SUNING, because the wave clear is really difficult for them to deal with if they just group up all together and try and force like mid lane turret. But you can see now they're trying to play the map, moving around, getting these outer turrets down, because they don't have a turret yet. So this would be the first one of the game going over towards LNG. But SUNING starting to move down, trying to see if they can collapse.
Find a pick onto light if they can. It's not going to happen for the time being. So that gold lead we talked about before, it was 4,000 about, I don't know, feels like 40 minutes ago at this stage. It's now down to 1,500, or I guess closer to 2,000 in favor of SUNING. So this Baron has shrunk the gold lead ever so slightly. It's a 1,000 gold power play in favor of LNG right now. The question is it going to be enough to close the gap and force some advantages for the side of LNG? Because it feels like even getting this Baron doesn't feel like enough. Honestly, right now, when I'm looking at LNG, it's all on light, right? He is literally the light for LNG at this stage. 4 items on this Vayne. He's practically full build. If he has free fire in a team fight, he's going to take over.
And he's going to rely on Ale and I want to set that up. So honestly, I wanted to see vision control from LNG littering this bot side jungle, but they're looking for the pick.
Storm SOFM goes down. Huge pick here for LNG. But what can they do with it? Looking towards the mid lane here, Angel could be in trouble. Big damage out from Light, but all of these ultimates being blasted back from SUNING. They're going to be able to waylay the damage.
And you still got a minute until this dragon, right? So SFM can still come up. There's no Baron on the map. There's no objectives that LNG can take. So honestly, a fair amount invested when you look towards like the cleanse that Light using that play, which you would really like to have available for this next dragon fight. But again, no vision control for LNG. No real ways for them to find these quick engages on towards the dragon. They're resetting now, and it's going to take them 30 seconds to walk towards the pit. So it's SUNING again controlling River, controlling the objectives, and LNG are on the back foot for finding these fights.
And I want to talk quickly about these AD carries, not just in terms of the build that Light currently has, but honestly, this split and last split as well, Light has been making a name for himself on this LNG squad. Ooh, Bin will get away. He's in Mininar right now, exhausted before Drake. But Huanfeng as well. 700 gold bounty on Huanfeng. 650 on Light. These AD carries, even if they're not playing AD, will be crucial in this upcoming fight. Drake going to be started here by LNG. This time, SUNING don't have that vision control that we're so used to them having. This time, it's a little bit dicier for them as LNG trying to move in and contest here. Tarzan is in the pit. In we go with the Magnet Storm. There's a slicing Maelstrom as well. Angel turns gold, but On's already down. SUNING health bars are being obliterated. It's 2 for Light. It's 1 for the Rel as well. Bin alone in the world here. Jumps over the wall. He'll survive. But it's not a whole lot to write home about.
And it's such a good engage from LNG. Ale finding the flank into position to set it up, and now Light will be able to take this dragon alongside LNG's Tarzan and finally kind of give a breath of fresh air to themselves for at least the next 5 minutes before the next objective spawns.
And look at the gold dagger. For the first time this game, LNG are now officially ahead. Iwandi starting this off beautifully.
I didn't like this from SUNING. Like, Iwandi, great engage. Ale was spotted on a ward. Like, you needed to back up as SUNING, try and find the poke, but they end up threatening too close to the dragon, and it's easy then for LNG to engage on them. A really good sandwich and flank position sets up Light, and they just tear through the health bars. So SUNING, unfortunately, just not quite respecting the engage tools from LNG and getting caught out.
And crucially as well, that 700 gold bounty that we just talked about that was on Huanfeng, going over to Icon, massive, massive influx of gold onto a carry here for the side of LNG. Now, moving towards the next fight, Tarzan's GA will potentially be on cooldown if it's, you know, in the next couple of minutes here. That could be an issue for LNG. We need to see SUNING playing better though. How would you have liked to see them approaching this Drake? Like, what does SUNING need to do to actually set up a play here? Because that didn't feel winnable for SUNING.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like trying to use these choke points around the dragon, right? Like trying to play where you can always walk back into your own side of the jungle, like stopping Light from being able to aggress forward, not allowing Ale to have these flanks, because they spotted him on a ward, but they still allowed him access to the backline. So I certainly think for SUNING, it's about like coming through a little bit smarter and making sure that you are avoiding Ale, especially when he has his flank, or sorry, his flash up and available in those situations.
Not getting caught out preemptively and also not staying too grouped up, right? Because it's not just about the Rel and Ale slicing Maelstrom as well. If you do get that big AoE lockdown from Rel, from Ale, well, Icon has a huge window to get a Mimic Distortion off and just one-shot everyone on the side of SUNING. There is a massive amount of AP damage available from the side of LNG that is AoE as well. And it's what you said earlier on. If we talk about how we establish these win conditions right at the very start of things, if this aggressive engage can come through from the side of LNG, well, Light is free to just auto-attack away on the backline.
And he's just managed to get his full build. Light has just picked up his GA as well, so now Light can play very aggressive in these fights, nearly bait SUNING into that overconfidence, and then take the fight as he respawns as well, allowing LNG to close the distance. So you can see now a lot kind of coming into LNG's favor, but you still have SUNING.
He's just gone straight in and down go the members of SUNING. Wonfeng answers with one. We've got Bin on the back line as well. Looks for a huge Gnar across the team, but Wonfeng doesn't have the damage to follow it up. He got a Gnar, but it just wasn't enough. And Light is taking over the game.
Just like that, LNG able to find the engage, set up once more a 1D, allowing Ale to get in perfectly there. And SUNING, we said they can play at range. They can play back with on kiting, but that has not been what's happened, and LNG have punished them again.
And one mistake in the mid-game felt like the tempo all went the way off of LNG. They got the Baron, they then got a Drake, they then get another team fight, and now Dagda, they might just look for the game. The first game of playoffs, and LNG, from a deficit at the 15-minute mark, have managed to make the miracle happen and take the first game of the series.
It looked dicey though. For so long, SUNING managed to hold them back, keep them at the gates. But the second that the structure started to crumble, LNG flooded through, consistently finding these engages coming through from my 1D, from Ale, and allowing Light to